So this is JJ Humphrey. We're back on Elephant in the Room. We've got a big day planned. I got Bobby Cleveland off from watching baseball long enough to have a little discussion. Y'all may not know this, but that's hard to do. Are they playing softball today, Bob, or is it baseball?
Softball. Watch the girls play softball.
Is it OU?
No, they won. They won yesterday. They're already in the World Series. They
Series.
run ruled. So they're playing. They got the first game. I think their game is at 4 o'clock Thursday. I'm not for sure, but they got the first game.
Do they still pray before tee off?
Yeah, yeah.
I actually
really
do like OU softball. I'm not a big baseball, softball fan, but I will tell you this: OU girls are massively impressive. If you watch them, they're not only great players, but they're great people on the field and off the field, and their character shows. And so I really, really like them. OU, the college, could take a little lesson from their ball team and maybe apply some of their stuff back. So,
yeah.
And we got Mandy. Mandy has give up her fishing today. You know, it's a major sacrifice when you give up catfishing on Eufaula to come in and speak to us. But I think she's got a lot of stuff to talk about. As always, Mandy is never sitting still. She's a whole lot like me. I guarantee I don't think she could sit still if she had to. So this week, she was mainly responsible for putting on a rally there at the Capitol. And I don't know if you know this, Mandy, but there were people upstairs. A lot of legislators were listening around that balcony upstairs. So even though we had a huge, big crowd, had a really good crowd on the second floor, we had probably half the size of that crowd, maybe 3/4 of the size of that crowd was upstairs listening around that opening there on the fourth floor. And so around that rotunda. So I think it was highly impressive. You had people like Ryan Walters. You had people like Stephen Jett, Charity Lynch. I spoke. I couldn't remember some of the others. I had to go grab a cup of coffee during that. Had to go get a person a cup of coffee. So who were some of the other people that you had to speak on that?
We had Jake there. You know, it's always a pleasure to see Jake. Yeah, he was there. He actually got a standing ovation from everybody. You know, talking about the things that he would change, the things that he sees. We had Wendy with the election integrity. You know, Charity Lynch just appointed her to some of the new board that she's got going on. And so Wendy's kind of heading that deal up. We had Faith Campbell, who's running for, you know, National Committee Chairwoman. We had Roberta Lewis came on to talk to her about some of the shenanigans that's going on at the Capitol, you know, in the sessions and what they do. You know, now if they don't like the vote, they just get another vote, you know, until they get it right the way they want it. So we had some good speakers.
About that for just a second, because a lot of people may not know what Roberta's talking about. Roberta's another one of them people that's always active, always doing something, whether it's in OK2A or whether it's with the DHS scandals, all the scandals that go on, especially down there in that county. She's Pottawatomie County, I believe. Mm-hmm. And so anyways, what she's talking about is that all year long, we have seen bills are failing. They continue to fail. They fail. And what they do is they capture them, which is okay. You can capture a bill. That's nothing wrong with that. But here's the problem. They've got like 40 Republicans voting against, 30 Republicans voting for, and then 20 Democrats kind of. So they're having to get over the hump with the Democrats. So it's not Republicans that are voting these bills. It's the Democrats that are winning the day. Now, every once in a while, you'll have a bill that's kind of an urban versus rural, where you'll see Republicans and Democrats kind of come together because it's more of an urban issue versus a rural issue. That's when Bob, he'd start to look like a Democrat back in the day on that kind of stuff. Okay, but But here's the deal. You see one or two of those bills. You don't see a lot of those bills. This year we're seeing bill after bill after bill that's the case, that they're barely getting over the hump. And if it wouldn't be for the Democrats. Now, the prior administration would not, they wanted 51 Republicans, or they didn't want to go on it. If you couldn't get the majority of your own party to go, they just wouldn't hardly go on a bill. It would be dead. And again, there's a few things I disagree with Charles McCall on, but I do say that he had a better understanding of how to control the party, a better understanding of how to keep you off a terrible vote. He controlled the floor much, much better than what we're seeing this year. And so that bill, one of the bills you're talking about, is a bill they failed. They brought it back. They failed again. I don't know how they brought it back a third time. You can't capture it again. They catch it third time, brought it back. Then they come out, and Kyle actually come out and sat in the speaker's seat and said, hey, this is nobody else. This is all me. I'm the one bringing this bill back up. Well, okay, that's fine. You're the one doing it. But how are you doing it? Lawfully, how are you doing it? I don't think you have a legal standing, legal precedent to do it. He brought it back on, and they got 51 votes. And again, Democrats carried them over. And so just a really bad look, a really, really bad look on everything. So I appreciate Roberta bringing that out. I think that was something that people need to hear. One of the other things, and I know you're aware of this, me and Bob actually had Jim Shaw on here to talk about it maybe a month ago, but the conservative voices have been just, I mean, Gabe Woolley has so much, because of the situation with his parents and all of his involvement with DHS, he has a lot of great ideals how to change some DHS. Guess what? He was completely shut down. Jim Shaw, he was elected overwhelmingly in one of the biggest overturned elections here in the state. And guess what? They shut him completely 100% down. And so that's a big, big deal that I think Roberta was discussing there the other day. Who else? Jake. Now, Jake, was he talking about running for governor? I stepped out while Jake was talking.
He was talking about a little bit of everything, about how, we got to come across party lines. We have to do what's better for the state. And, Jake's definitely for the people. He got into Senate because he absolutely saw the broken stuff going on with DHS and with the child that he adopted from DHS. And so he grasps of everybody that has been through the Capitol, I would say he's in the top 5 of truly grasping what is actually going on in the state and in those agencies. Obviously you're one of them. You see all of it from the ground up, and Jake really sees it. He sees the big picture about what's going on, what needs to change, where we need to work to change. It's not just top level. It's that mid level. We've had those conversations before. It's those employees with DHS that have been there 10, 20, 30, 40 years. They're the ones really controlling the system that need change. And so Jake's got a good picture of it. And when he left the stage that day, he got a standing ovation. They all stood for him. And so
Awesome.
He's got a good voice for the people.
Well, what do you think is the problem, the biggest problem with DHS?
Oh, man. I don't know that we need to narrow it down to one, Bob.
Well, take the top issues.
Well, we've got all these people in charge that have been in charge for years, and it's a broken system. And so all those people that have been there for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, they're pulling all the strings. They know how to manipulate the system. Dr. Shropshire, she was it was first Justin Brown. And so we started rattling cages, and, Justin Brown stepped down. And then Dr. Shropshire stepped up, and we rattled a lot of cages, and we got her to step down. But the problems are still there. So it's obviously not the top guys, right? So it's got to be that mid-level that in there. And I really firmly believe if Charles McCall and legislative leadership would have allowed JJ's motion to go through when he asked them to get an OSBI investigation into DHS, I really think it would have exposed everything that we needed to expose. I think it would have told who was dirty, who's doing what to children, where they're ignoring it at. It comes down to MDTs. They're taking all this money. They're not doing what they're paid to do and what they're funded to do. I mean, it's a trickle system. I mean, there's so much money in and out. Of course, they don't want to do anything. And then you've got your DAs, which, JJ's been on top of the DAs and all that too. And the DAs don't want to prosecute. And, it makes a big revolving circle. I said this at the Capitol. I got involved in this because of what happened to my stepdaughter. And I can tell you, looking back at the records and their history, if they would have been prosecuted for robbing houses with her in the back seat, she probably wouldn't have got her first sexually transmitted infection at 9. You know what I mean? And so DHS didn't do anything. They kept just patting them on the back and giving them some drug services, and here's some more services, and here's some more services. And you keep patting these criminals on the back, and then you let them take their kids. And the system is broken. It's broken all over the place. And we've got to have somebody that cleans all this stuff up. And I think if they would have allowed JJ to have his investigation, I think this would have already been well on the way of getting cleaned up. But even Drummond said, I'm not touching it. And I think that's key. People need to be paying attention. When Drummond says he's not going to touch it, that's not who we need in the governor's seat.
Well, one thing about it, too, is Justin Brown, the governor put Justin Brown in there. Justin Brown knew absolutely nothing about what was going on. He had this, I'm a businessman. I'm going to use this business model, and we're going to take away all of these offices out in the community. Well, hell, I mean, what kind of moron, leaves this conglomerate, this bloated administration, and removes all the offices? I mean, if you're going to remove all the offices, just remove DHS. What good are you? Why are you even there if you're going to do that? And put child welfare under the local police, under the sheriff? I guarantee you'd get much, much better outcome if you put them there where they're responsible for having to go back and get a vote of the people every 4 years. I promise you're going to get a much, much better outcome. And that's, nobody's having those discussions, looking at really how to reform that, because what they've done, they created such a big agency, and they just keep, what's consolidating agencies until now you have the PARB, and you have the child welfare, and you have the, I will tell you, they need to investigate the daycare portion, because they're attacking private daycares, private companies, private businesses out here trying to socialize daycare, trying to have DHS take it over. All of the woke money they get, all of the federal money they get, all of these different adult services, what do you call them? The nursing homes, all of these things under them, and they're wrecking the entire deal. They're not doing anything right as far as I see. And so again, they put somebody in charge, they screw it up, they bring somebody else in charge. I think Deb did have some experience. I just don't think, you know what I'm saying? I don't think she had the ability. I think if Brown could have identified what was wrong if he wanted to, I don't think Brown was trying to. I think Brown was trying to make a buck for Brown. That's what it looks like to me. But Deb, whether she's trying to make money or not, I don't know. But I didn't see her having the backbone to go tear that apart. The guy they got right now doesn't know, and he ain't going to have the backbone to stand up and do it. That's what I'm going to predict.
Well, JJ, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when you went to the Attorney General, he said you didn't have enough evidence.
Right. We've been to the Attorney General multiple times on this. The biggest disappointment has been here lately that we had the DA from Lincoln County and Pottawatomie County who came in because of all this. That's how he was put into his job. He's tried for the last couple of years to fix that. He's worked trying to get on top of that, and he came out about 2 months ago and wrote a scathing letter on DHS on these family. What are they called? The
advocacy centers.
Yes, the groups that have the DAs, and then they have
the multidisciplinary system.
Multidisciplinary teams. Boy, he ripped that. Now he ripped all of that, and man, he just did a good job. If you go back and read his letter, I mean, he ripped all of it. Sent it to Drummond, AG Drummond, and I followed up with the letter saying, hey, I can't say it any better than that guy, and then added a case that we got going on Tishomingo right now and said, hey, it is time to do something on all this. Drummond comes out, says there's no evidence. Now, he got sent a 350-page report of evidence. We sent him several letters, but we had a hearing there at the Capitol that was 2 hours, massive evidence on it. We've sent grand jury petitions with massive evidence on it. Here he has a DA writing him with a lot more information. I don't know what the man needs. I don't know what he calls evidence, but I would tell you that seems more than enough to warrant a multi-grand jury to me.
Well, would that be kind of like the way he did DOC?
Oh, same thing.
He didn't investigate the rapes that was going on, and he says he did, but he didn't.
Well, at least right here, he come out and said, I'm not going to do it. In DOC, he claimed to do it. And that's what really, Bob, what really people don't understand, what hurt us huge on that is now people come out and say, well, the AG investigated that. Bullshit. He didn't investigate that. He did absolutely nothing. And he did us a mountain of harm, because now I'll destroy the whole prison system. HARP is where it's saying, yes, we did an investigation. The AG did an investigation into that and found that it's not happening. We came back with the film showing, yeah, it's happening. Look out here. We'll show you on film. It's happening. And then he came back and said, well, if JJ would have just called and told us, or if he would have just advised us that they had more evidence. Here's what's funny, Bob. I sent them a certified email with that, adding all that evidence, and then adding on where we had human rights violations with those guys being put in the 2x2 dysfunctional showers. So they're stuck in a 2x2 cell and held for days at a time with no bathrooms, no food, limited food and water, and no bathrooms. And again, Bob, I wrote that, and they failed to investigate. I don't know what Drummond, but I will tell you this, Bob. I think that if Drummond could get advice on what not to do, somebody just ought to advise him on what not to do, because that's what exactly, you don't run for governor and sue the Catholic Church and sue all of the religious folk, on the school deal. That may have been the stupidest move I've ever seen politically in my life. That was just dumb, okay? And then here you have this deal we're talking about, multi-county grand jury. We have people all over the state. I mean, Mandy, did your phone ever quit ringing off the hook?
No, I get emails, I get text messages. I got in a group yesterday of 12 people, and I was like, how do you know me? And it's the same stories every single time. So no, my phone never stops, and they're begging for help. Can you please help me? Can you help my kid? This happened. The DA is not prosecuting. The kid got raped. I've got a case in Stevens County right now. Judge Wheeler, little girl's sick. She got tested at the SANE Center. She has semen in her vagina and in her rectum. And guess what? The judge gave her back to the dad. He said, I don't believe the SANE exam. It's a SANE exam. It tested positive for semen. I don't know what more you could possibly want than that. And that's the kind of judges and district attorneys we have at the helm of all this. We have got to turn the ship around. I cannot express this enough. We're sinking, and we have Drummond at the helm of the ship, and he's also not prosecuting. He's the mentor to all these. You know what I mean? And just like Painter, we've reached out to Painter. JJ, I know you have too. We're like, hey, get in the boat with us. Let's all raise a ruckus. I can't get him to respond. I personally think it was a campaign. I'm just going to toss my hat because he's got a campaign now. You know, he had it first handed to him, and now he's got to actually run. And I think this is a campaign. That's just me, because he won't respond to people. He doesn't really want a grand jury, or he would get back on the boat. Because I've contacted him. I said, you get the petition together, I'll get grassroots, and we will carry it. We'll get you the signatures you need, and we'll start in your 2 counties. No response. And so sometimes it's a little hard for me to swallow some of this political crap that goes on when all these people are saying, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. We're going to do this. And then when you hand it to them on a platter, just like JJ's done, how many investigations has JJ done in his own time? Hundreds, thousands of hours of looking at this case, looking at that case. I've listened to all the cases he's got. Hundreds of thousands of hours in all these cases. He hands it to them on a platter and they still do nothing. They don't want to do this. They want a campaign. This is a political move for them. It's a political stunt. It's not about helping the people of Oklahoma. It's not about helping the children of Oklahoma. It's about, let me put a big fat star on my chest so I look like I'm really doing something out there. But they're not helping the people.
You know what I can't get is if I was in a Drummond place or governor or, speaker's place, man, I would just order investigation and then step away. You know what I'm saying? Here, OSBI, we're ordering you to do it. Here, grand jury, we're ordering y'all to do it. We're going to assign it to so-and-so out in Garfield. I would just get it and go, look what I did. Look what I did. I ordered it. I agree. There's enough to warrant, and we're going to investigate it. And I'd look like a saint. And if something happened, I'd go, there you go. I was the one got that done. And if nothing happened, I go, well, we did our job. We looked into it. I did all I can. Instead, they don't just not do it. That's what's bad. It's not that they don't do their job. It's not that they just don't do it. They prevent me from doing it. They prevent other people from doing it. Again, when you look at Tulsa County, guess what? Your DA up there ought to be charged. My opinion. Yeah. The DA had violated the law, went over and threatened people, not once, but on multiple occasions. Come out against that petition. And again, I think illegally. You go up to Garfield County and guess what? Same type of behavior going on. When you go over here and look at Wagner County, guess what? It's the same type of behavior, only that guy's doing it legally. I think he is doing it legally. But I do believe that he's coming out and trying to say, I don't think, you know what I'm saying? He's coming out, oh, this is a terrible deal. And I'm a servant of the people. Well, you know what? Look here, all you're trying to do, somebody needs to write back out and say, hey, let me tell you why he's all this. Because he's a subject. It's not even really cool for him to be coming out and saying all that because he's the subject of the grand jury. He's 50% of why they're down there asking for a grand jury. And so again, I believe it's really, really wrong for him to publicly go out on that. But he is doing it legal, where the DA there did it illegal. We saw the judge in Oklahoma County wouldn't accept mountains of evidence, which if he had accepted and looked at it, and that's why he wouldn't accept it, because if he had looked at it, guess what? He should be required under Kelsey Briggs. If you know kids are being harmed, you have a duty to act. You have to order an investigation. He had that authority, but he would not look at the evidence, and that's what they're doing. They're just, well, we're not going to look at it. Well, and like you said a while ago, Mandy, what they've said, and I don't know who I heard that said that Drummond stated, that he's just not going to touch it, that it's too tore up. Now somebody come back and said that's rumor. We don't know that was actually said, so that's a rumor. But I would not have any don't have a hard time believing that rumor because that's what his actions have said. He's gotten massive amounts of calls in there. Massive. He's had grand juries. We've got evidence to show that O'Connor ordered a grand jury in Daryl's case, and then they, when Drummond came in, they killed that jury, and we've got some pretty good evidence that would show they killed that just because they were mad at Daryl or didn't like Daryl, or that they were closer to the other side that what would have got exposed in that grand jury. So they killed it on purpose, and we've got evidence to show that. And again, we can't get anybody to entertain that evidence. I went to the feds. Man, I've given the feds mountains of stuff. And I heard the other day they may be coming in on what prison is it at Holdenville? Allen Gamble, right? Is it Allen Gamble? Allen Gamble. Somebody told me they might be starting to investigate that, which would be awesome if they would come in and start investigating. We're going to try to expose.
They've had the most deaths than anybody.
Oh, they're out of control. They're completely out of control.
Hey, Roberta, on this girl, the 6-year-old girl, what kind of test? Who did the test on her that discovered this information?
Sane exam out of Texas.
Same exam out of Texas.
They did a SANE, which is sexual abuse nurse examination. They did a test on her out of Texas. So it's not even an Oklahoma thing. And he said he couldn't believe it. So he sent the kid back. But Bob, I mean, this happens in every county all over the state of Oklahoma. I can give you a name of at least one family in all 77 counties that have a kid that's being sexually abused by either their step parent or their biological parent. And they're sweeping it under the rug. I mean, I'm seeing a lot more prosecuted. If you'll notice the news, JJ, lately, they're prosecuting a lot more. They're going after a lot more, but it's not enough. I mean, our kids are in bad shape. This is bad.
And not only that, but they pull kids out. I've got a case going on in Tishomingo. I mean, pulled a kid out for what looks to be absolutely no reason. And when I'm calling them saying, give me the reason, of course, I was a little, Bob, I know you're going to have a hard time believing this. I may have been an ass, okay? I may have been.
No, Jay. Tell me
I did. So I called the worker 2 or 3 times, couldn't get a response back. Called upstairs administration, couldn't get nobody call me back. So I left messages on their phones telling them how I thought they were doing their job, which was not pretty, and that I was going to try to file kidnapping and have their sorry heinies thrown in jail. It wasn't quite that pleasant, Bob, but something along that line. So their lawyer for DHS wrote me and said that I was harassing. I wrote her back and said, you ain't seen harassing yet. Y'all ain't seen nothing yet. And they said, well, there's a proper way. And I said, well, fine. Tell me the proper way I can get this information. And then I wrote them back and said, hey, no proper way. Tell me what I need to do properly to get this information. Guess what? I have yet to receive 1 ounce of information from them. I sent them all kinds of stuff on other cases, never received any information. The only case they really ever brought me over was on the Woolies. And what was funny, one of the things they were mainly hanging their hat on, I got that case and reviewed it in 5 minutes, put that to rest. And in fact, I told them, I hear anybody else saying these kind of, I mean, horrendous lies, slander. And we were able to that quick. They've been sitting around telling that for years. And here's what's funny, in 5 minutes, go in there and look, and able to 1,000% put it to rest and show it was a dirty lie. And again, they've done nothing to, and I believe they gave me that file because they gave me and Dana gave him a file he asked for, gave me a file. And then they met with us and said, have y'all showed anybody that file? Which Dana, being honest like he is, yeah, I showed it to the person it's about what you would think a person that it's about ought to be able to see it. What's confidential about it, if it's on them, And so, they went after Dana and tried to get Dana, removed off stuff where he couldn't see. They did all kinds of stuff. If I'd been Dana, I'd go, "What y'all talking about?" They
Have
asked.
you ever thought about that that they get a shot at the judge prior to the hearing? I'm talking about the DHS person.
The problem is, Bob, is they allow anybody to have a job at DHS. And then I mean anybody. If you have a degree in basket weaving, you can be over the kids department. You can be over child protective services.
But they don't pay very well either. I can't say that.
No, they don't. But the problem is they have no investigative skills. And JJ being prior law enforcement, he's trained in investigations. I had to personally go out and hire an investigator because I was like, my husband's case is so crazy, so unbelievably crazy. I'm talking about upwards of 24 criminal offenses, stealing gas, felony CDS, drug paraphernalia, domestic violence, robbing houses with the kids in the car. I mean, it's so outlandish. You'd be like, Mandy, you're crazy. That's not true. No, it's all true. It's all in the DHS records, but they have no investigative skills. And so you're allowing law enforcement, because of the statute, they're kicking it to DHS and saying, you guys go do the investigation. DHS goes out and does the investigation, but they're not qualified investigators. That's like JJ. When they handed him the case, it took him 5 minutes to realize he's done enough investigations. He knows this is crap. They put a bunch of stuff on paper to try to bamboozle people, and it's not true. Well, the same thing goes for DHS. They have no investigative skills. They should not be investigating crimes against children, not so ever. And then these judges believe that DHS comes in and they're held to this high standard, like DHS doesn't lie. They do. They lie just like everybody else, unfortunately. A doctor will lie, a law enforcement will lie. Not everybody's good in all categories and all career choices. And so we all know that. But the problem is there's no investigative skills. We have to have some investigators that actually do this kind of work and go out, investigate the case, and know this. And I don't think there's anybody better in the state of Oklahoma to lead that charge than there would be JJ. He's looked at all of it. He knows.
They're back asswards, Bob. That's the problem. DHS is supposed to hand this to the investigators, to law enforcement. If you look at the law, it says that when we know this stuff is going on, you have to refer it to law enforcement. Law enforcement's the one that's supposed to be investigating.
Is that the DA or is that the sheriff?
That's the whole system, because guess what? Everybody has started, well, that's DHS. That's DHS. Let DHS do it. And again, you know what? If you're a sheriff and you're underhanded, and not underhanded, understaffed, not underhanded, well, that could be part of it too, though. So may spoke turn what I know. But here's the deal. Most of our sheriffs are good people. I can name you bunches. Great sheriffs. They're understaffed. They don't have people on their staff that are sexual, investigators trained in interviewing in sexual things. It would take a lot of money to get that put in. So guess what? They just kick it over to them when it's supposed to be the other way. And again, that's why I would advocate let's dismantle DHS. Let's put the Child Protective Services, CPS, under our sheriffs, and let them do that way. They will be trained investigators. And I'll tell you, these CPS people ought to be law enforcement, and they ought to have 20 years. If they're going to be out there doing that and actually getting trained and doing all that, they should be law enforcement. They should get 20-year retirement. I will tell you this, they ought to be making as much as anybody. I've been out with them in the middle of the night, take kids. I wouldn't have their job. The worst part of I've sat down with people who shot themselves in the head and talked to them till they die. I've seen people blow their head off and still be alive and talk to them. I've seen people in parts all over. Guess what? Nothing bothers me as bad as going out there and taking somebody's kid, even a kid that needs their kids taken away. Man, to take them kids away it's gut wrenching. I don't see how they do it. I guess you get used to it after a while. Maybe, I don't know. I know a lot of them that have, drank a little bit, maybe too much, to try to deal with that. I've had several friends that were in that business that just had some, and I've had some that had to just get out of it because they just couldn't take it no more. I mean, they were sick of it. And you take a person who does, who retires out of that, starts and retires, boy, I mean, they're a hardcore person. And again, we should have opportunities for them to get out of that, but we need trained, professional, and again, experienced people. Those people with that experience ought to get to go up into the administration where they wouldn't have to go out, and you would see that experience stay and train people. That's what you ought to have. It's not this is no brain surgery. We could do this, and we could create deputies for the counties, let our counties have more law enforcement, more money into their budget. We get much, much, much better bang for your buck. You would get more quality people that would have to go through Cleveland, those kind of things.
Would they work for DHS? These investigators, would they work for DHS, or are they going to be an independent?
Well, what I would say is let them go under the sheriff and let them work for the sheriff.
I would like to see a whole team, because pedophilia in the state of Oklahoma is running rampant. I'm telling you right now, I review cases all the time. We have a silent epidemic of pedophilia. I would love to see a child welfare task force just for sexual abuse against children. And all cases go to that state, go there. And so if it's a false allegation, let's just go out on a limb and say you got a mom and dad fighting for custody. If mom accuses dad or dad accuses mom, they don't investigate it. They don't investigate it because they think it's a custody battle. But I'm telling you, 8 times out of 10, it's happening. I'm reviewing the cases. I'm looking at them, and I'm telling you, we've got an epidemic of pedophilia. So if we had a child task force that just did sexual abuse, and we had some of the best investigators in the state, we know there's some really good forensic interviewers out there. We know there's some really good police officers out there. We know there's some that care. We know there's some that's really great at it. JJ's great at investigating, putting all the pieces together. JJ's great at having an intuition about people. And you got to have that too. You got to have a full circle on your team. And if we had those kind of investigators, we could clean the state up like crazy. But just turning out, like I talked to one girl and I said, why do you work for DHS? Well, I couldn't get a job anywhere else. What's your degree in? In accounting. And I was like, okay, so what do you think about DHS? Well, I don't like doing the reports. I think we should just do away with all reports. I almost threw up. Do away with all the reports. Everything that a child just told you, you don't want to report. That's terrible. And that's the kind of people that we have in DHS right now. And so I think if you shrunk DHS and you said, we're going to cut it back to so many, we do what JJ says, and we all open up those teams within the sheriff's department, and then we have a pedophilia team that works in the state and investigates these cases. I mean, I think we're just killing it, Ben. I think we could help so many people. And like I said, I'm just on the kid side, but there's so much more that have to be done in the state. But if you ran all those pedophilia cases, even those juvenile centers where we know for a fact, we talked to how many kids have we talked to, JJ, where they said they were perpetrated on in these juvenile facilities?
Here's the deal with me and Mandy just met with 6 months ago, 4 months ago sometime. So we met with an attorney and 2 other people, one a just turned 18 juvenile. So he's adult, he can talk now. We talked with an employee of that same facility. This employee had quit over this kid right here. Mm-hmm. And again, this kid come in and said the director of the facility had solicited sex from him on multiple occasions. Now I said, and he goes, and then they retaliated because he refused to have sex. So I was like, well, explain to me what retaliation is, son. And man, he started. I was denied this. I couldn't do this. I couldn't go on this. They wouldn't let me do this. They harassed me on this. I mean, he's naming everything, and I go, that's called retaliation right there. Everything. I mean, I was laughing. I was going, okay, you nailed her. All right, go on with your story now. You know, and man, I mean, he's telling us about all of these things that are happening in these facilities. Sexual. He told us about one female resident there, a juvenile resident at a juvenile detention. Now, this is not Tulsa. This is a different one. And he's telling us about her having sex. And I said, well, now you just think she had sex. No, I listened to her having sex. Well, you didn't see it. Well, I didn't see it, but I can describe what's going on. I was like, well, you don't have to. But I mean, he definitely heard this girl having sex with what he said was an employee. And he said she is now pregnant, or was at that time. And again, here's the deal. If she's pregnant, it's not hard to go get a DNA. I mean, that one's as easy as falling off a log. Now maybe she had sex with multiple people. Maybe she had sex with other underage, juveniles there. It's possible that happened. So again, we're not saying 100%. What we're saying is it would warrant investigation. Now, here's what's funny. I took that to a county commissioner, and I can tell you that county commissioner got all over it, okay? And so, again, that county commissioner met with the authorities from that agency, told them all about that, told him how he had found out about the information, which was through me. Guess what? I didn't tell him any names. I didn't tell him. And the reason I did that was because those authorities are going to have to come back through me to get the names, of which I'd happily give them, but I'm going to make them go through me so that I know they are doing an investigation. Guess what? They've never contacted me. Never said a word. So
well, is it so bad? It's so bad that nobody just wants to touch it and get involved in it, like you two have. Is it that what it is?
I think they don't want accountability. I think nobody wants to be sued. I think they want to shove it all under the rug. And then, but these kids, like that kid, his story was so traumatic. Like, and I'm going to be really honest with you. He had been in there for a little while. His education level was not great. His communication skills were not great. He could tell you all the things that happened to him and the other kids in there, but I'm telling you, he's headed for jail. He's headed for a life of jail because of all the things that happened to him. He had no choice, you know what I mean? And so his future looks very dim by what's going on. Nobody likes this stuff. When JJ and I start talking about the things that happen to these kids, the little girl, JJ knows this story. There's another little girl. Little girl's 4. She said, my dad and my stepmom are both perpetrating on me. Dad then gets arrested for taking contraband into the prison in Lex. Fentanyl. He blames it on baby mama. Well, he's already remarried. He already has more kids. How did baby mama get him on there when baby mama don't have anything to do with him? Like, there's no, you know what I mean? And so the thing is like, we need investigations into these cases. These stories are true. These kids are telling the truth. They're screaming out for help, but they silence their voices when they send them back to these abusers. This is the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, you lost me. What's this 4-year-old girl saying?
She's saying that the dad and the stepmom are both perpetrating on her. She said it in a forensic.
Did she?
Well, okay. She said, I didn't want to say it on here, Bob, but she said that her dad stuck a blue crayon in her vagina, and then he stuck something else in her butt, and then her stepmom rubs her vagina until she gets blisters.
Well, I can understand what you're saying now.
Yeah. So little girl, it's bad. You know what I mean? And the police officers look away because his uncle works for the Cleveland County Sheriff's Office.
Well, and he did work for DOC, and Bob, guess what? DOC, who fires everybody, and you know this, DOC come to his aid, protect him, try to help him, make sure they keep him. I mean, it blows your mind, Bob, what people are doing. Why are you protecting this guy who all evidence? And again, we want to make sure. I mean, is it possible this girl gets it wrong? Possible. That's what. But you know, how does a four-year-old? This is what you got to understand. When you start talking to these 4-year-olds and 6-year-olds, how do they even make that kind of stuff up? They're talking about stuff they should have zero understanding on, zero knowledge, and where they're giving in detail. And that's always when you're interviewing somebody, you ask that crazy question: what color was the crayon? Boom. You know what I'm saying? Now, for a 4-year-old, that may be hard to answer, but when your adults can go, that was blue, you know. Okay, wow. You know, I mean, those are the questions when you're asking and you're doing interviews and you start getting that kind of detail and that kind of information. In a kid, you're trained not to ask, you know, certain ways, certain things to lead them into answering you. But when you talk to them and out of that conversation, they're providing that kind of detail, that kind of information, you can pretty much take her to the bank. Something's going on. Then it becomes an issue, who's responsible, and narrowing that down. But in this case, you've had multiple things come up, not just the perping, but the illegal drugs and all of the other kind of things that would tend to be real indicators. Yes, if we're looking for somebody who has a lot of problems and who would do these kind of things, these are the indicators that would kind of scream out. You know, when you look at the other ex-parent, the parent on the other side, you know, do they have all these other issues? And, you know, when they don't, but you have this guy having all these issues, including the woman he's with now having these kind of issues, then you start saying, well, who's more likely? Now we have this being accused. And again, they're saying it's these two. Then what, you know, all the evidence points to these two, and yet nothing happens. And that's time after time after time after time, we're seeing it. And again, DHS gets mad at you. I think that's what's in Sean's case is they got mad at him because he had the audacity to take them on, stand up to them. And now come for high water, they're going to fight you and say that you're a troublemaker. You're the problem. Daryl's case is the same way. And that's what we see with anybody that has this case down in Tishomingo. The granddad is one standing up to him. And so they're after them, you know, same thing. Anybody that has the audacity to say, well, what am I signing? Why am I signing this? Y'all haven't done this. You haven't done this. You haven't done this in timely. You hadn't had a hearing. You're supposed to have a hearing in 3 days. Been 35 days. Where's the hearing? How did you take the kid? When you start asking them questions, guess what? Oh, they'll come out like biting hogs against you, and they'll go after you.
Yeah. This little girl's case is in Grady County. And Judge Young, given the evidence, he said, no, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And then the mom said, well, I want to submit the forensic interview so you can read it and the video. No, we're not going to allow you to do that. And JJ knows, being an investigator, being law enforcement, you can't deny evidence into one of these cases. You can't deny that. That's illegal. You cannot obstruct that. They have obstructed this mom from allowing her to bring in the video and the forensic interview into her own case to plead her own case. So the mom then recuses the judge, and the judge is like, okay, because she puts it all in writing, everything the judge has done. You can read it on file, Judge Young. Then it's supposed to be 14 days to get a new judge. It ended up being 6 weeks, Bob. 6 weeks. They denied her a judge. And all this time, it's a game. So we're going to drag this out. Then the judge again says, I need the forensic interview and the video footage to add into my case so you guys can see what happened to my daughter. Judge Kirkland is now the judge in Grady County. And he's like, no, we're not going to add that into evidence. You can't have it. You're the mom. how does she fight her case if you guys are obstructing her all the time?
Well, who can have it if the mom can't have it? And
Right.
that's the deal. I mean, they hide, and Bob, you know this with your dealings with DOC. DHS is 10 times worse. We're going to hide behind confidentiality. Oh, you can't see that. Here I am in an executive, level. I can see it. They can't keep me from seeing it. Again, I may not can share it out there with everybody, but I can review it. And again, I can't even get copies. I can't even get things done. And they're not confidential. Confidential to who? Confidential to the own parents. Confidential. The kid can't use it in their own behalf. And here's what's even more amazing is you got all these guardian ad litem sitting on their hands over there, sitting on their thumbs, doing absolutely nothing. Why don't the guardian ad litem say, we want to see that? They ought to jump up and go, hell yes, we want to see that. Trot that in.
Where's the press at? Where's the press at?
The press?
Yes.
Oh, Bob, we've tried. They don't want to get involved. And you know what they'll tell us is it's family court and we don't want to touch that. And it really comes down to that they don't know really who to believe because it becomes so distorted. I mean, even in my husband's case, you tell me, Bob, we go in and we testify about abuse that happened to his daughter and 2 transcripts that came up missing. 2 of them, back-to-back hearings, one in August and one in January. So they get ahead of you, you know what I mean? And they block you everything they can. And Sean's guardian ad litem, when we sat down with him and we had a discussion, we were like, he said, I'm going to make sure that I don't cost you guys very much money. You're on your 3rd guardian ad litem. You spent all this money and I'm going to help you. And we said, okay, here is the lab work where she tested positive for sexually transmitted infection. She's been saying it's her stepdad. Here, we want you to look at it. He said, well, I'm going to take this medical record and I'm going to show it to my wife because she's a SANE nurse. First of all, you can't take private information and show it to your wife. You're an attorney. You should at least know that. But he didn't. And then when you go reading into the case and what he's wrote, he says all this nonsense. I mean, I don't even want guardian ad litems in there anymore because I don't think they're honest either. He writes everything down. He fraudulently does that. He gets on the stand and perjures himself, and I can prove that. I was on my way to the sheriff to prove it until magically the transcript came up missing, Bob. Now we can't prove that he lied. Isn't that convenient?
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing. The media, they'll get involved for a minute. You'll get a petition. It's a story for a second, and then they drop it. And it's the same way with prison, Bob. After 2 guys get their head cut off, it's no longer, you know what I'm saying? It's
Not
just,
news. Not news.
you would think this last guy got his head cut off. Man, that would be a guy gets beheaded in prison. You think that would be news? JJ, that's happened so much.
Yeah, you see the Harvard Troll give a guy pepper spray, and it's news.
Yeah, but you let some officer get stabbed or pepper sprayed themselves, beaten down. That's going on every day. We're not interested in that because it's wore out.
That's what prison is.
Well, and they wore that story out, and it's gotten them nowhere. And so they're just until you have something bigger. And again, then it's a one-time story, and it's over. JJ does this. Okay, it make news one maybe 2 days, but that's it. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with here. We make news 1 or 2 days, but now jury petitions aren't making news as much because guess what? We've hit Oklahoma City, Garfield. We're trying Wagner. So now it's like, okay, that's old hat. We'll see. Now if we can get one. I think that's when things will heat up. When they see the list of people we're wanting to call, I think that'll heat up.
Well, Randy, has anybody at DHS ever came to you in the upper levels and say, hey, what do you think's wrong with us? What do you think's wrong with DHS? What can we do?
No, I've had multiple conversations. When I go out and I also do supervised visits for parents, and I've even had to make referrals on my own. They will not. They don't go out. They don't care. I've said, let's have a conversation. Not long ago, I heard a conversation where a DHS worker talked to another lady outside this family circle, and she told her how to go get guardianship of somebody else's kid. Explain to her the process. I almost threw up. She's telling her how to steal a child. That's trafficking. I listened to the conversation, Bob. So some of these people, they're not willing to do what it takes. If I firmly believe we should all work together. That was one of the things I said at the Capitol this last week. I said, come across party lines and let's all work together to make Oklahoma great. You know what I mean? It's going to take all of us. It's not going to take just the Republicans or just the Democrats or just the Libertarians or whatever. We all got to work together and agree that we need the state to be better. But nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants to run from accountability, run from transparency, and we need to be running to it, not running from it. And that's a whole problem. If JJ said today, Mandy, you know what? I want to do a grand jury petition on you. I'd say, JJ, I'm going to help you get signatures. You know why? Because I believe in accountability. I believe in transparency, and I know I haven't done anything wrong. So I'm going to help JJ get those signatures. So DHS should come out and say, we're going to ask for OSBI to investigate ourselves. Jeff could come out, Jeff Cartmel, the new district director, he could come out and say, I want an investigation. All these rumors can't be nonsense. If one person says you're a butthole and two people, and the next person says you're a butthole, but then 10 people say it, you're probably a butthole.
Hold it. Let's not go there. Okay. Let's not.
Well, I'm going to say this, JJ, because I know we're going to get late, but from what I know about you, and I've seen what work you do, and I've seen that you don't get into something unless you know what you're doing. And you don't take anybody's word for it. You check it out. You double check it out to find it. And this is what's amazing to me, that nobody at that state capitol will go and ask you, hey, can you help us? Can we get something done? None. No, not one dadgum agency has said that.
Bob, and what's funny, I was talking to one of the guys who's constantly against me. He's one of the smartest guys up there. I like him, but we're always at opposite ends. And we were arguing about something the other day, and I said, hey, let me tell you something. If I tell you something, you take it to the bank. And this guy told me, he said, JJ, he said, if there's one guy in this entire Capitol building that everybody knows it, that if you say something, that's the way it is. He said, everybody knows that's the way you are. And I'm going, my mind's blown, because I'm thinking, well, if everybody knows that I'm going to tell the truth and I'm going to verify everything and that I've got it all documented, then how is it that I can come with inmates being put in showers, inmates being raped, murders being covered up, kids being waterboarded, kids being beaten, kids being sexually molested, and not one person at the Capitol, not one leader will say, and you know what we're asking? And Bob, you know this because we've done the same thing. Me and you've done it in corrections. We're not asking anybody to go to jail or whatever. We're asking that they investigate. Now, if they find it true, I'm all for people going to jail, but investigate it. We have a lot of evidence, but look at the evidence. I could go get more evidence, but they won't let me go. And our own people have stopped me from getting the evidence that we need. And that's what, in fact, we hope to call them out this week. I hope, like I'll get out, that I get to call them out and do something really crazy this week and put the smack down on them, hopefully through a lawsuit. We'll see if that happens. Well, guys, we are out of time. We can talk about that. I was really wanting to kind of get into some of the grassroots stuff. Mandy, what you're planning on and things like that. I think that you've got a great career, possibly in politics. You're off to a really great start in that. And so again, we'll come back, and maybe we can get Daryl to come on if we get that grand jury in Payne County. We're working on a grand jury in Payne County. If we can get that, we'll have you and Daryl come back on. We'll talk about strategy and what we hope to get out of that. And maybe we can follow up with some of those discussions. So we're going to have, hey, getting off here, we do want to say that how much we appreciate the servicemen and women the people who've given their life for a country, the people who are out there. It's a whole different ball game with me because I got a kid that just went and joined the military. So the appreciation that I have, what you sacrifice, what families sacrifice to put them kids out there and young men out there and our servicemen and women, we just want to tell you that we appreciate you and we hope you have a blessed holiday. Guys, we'll see you later.